Hello there. Tomorrow our MPs will dutifully march through the I lobby to place more shackles on the people of England. This 3 weeks to flatten the curve thing is really going well, isn't it? And after well over 18 months of this, our MPs will be voting to take us back to work from our homes and ordering us to carry our papers about in England and to produce them for inspection when the authorities so demand. And because English votes for English laws, known as EVIL, was scrapped in July, all UK MPs will vote on this matter that affects only the people of England. Whereas in the devolved areas of the UK, only their devolved politicians have the say. No one in England can interfere. And as Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have already happily handed over their freedoms, they will want to ensure that England follows suit. So apart from the now over 70 Tory rebels, the overwhelming majority of MPs, including the Labour Party, will vote with the government to strip our freedoms away, and so will the House of Lords. Now, although the devolved administrations always want to do things differently to England so as to justify their pay and expenses, this time they will want England to be the same, so that they can claim that they got it right in the first place and that Westminster and Boris's Tory government are now finally playing catch-up. And Keir Starmer's Labour will vote with the government on it to cause a Tory split. It's all about politics. Now, as I said earlier, there are now reportedly over 70 Tory rebels prepared to vote against their own government on this issue of going into Plan B restrictions. And there are also somewhere near a dozen junior ministers on resignation watch over the matter. But this may change as some wobble after the news came out that one hospital patient has sadly died with, and that's an important word, with the newest flavour of the lurgy. The whips will be all over the rebels, telling them that it's too early to play the rebel. Some may waver and decide it's better to go with the flow. I hope they do not. And I doubt we'll hear many details about this hospital case, unless they can be made to fit a certain narrative. Otherwise, uncertainty is always best. Keeps people on their toes, don't you know? Anyway, what will MPs be voting on? Well, according to the Hansard Society, it'll mean more face-covering requirements, daily testing instead of going home for double-dosed people who come into contact with positives, and health passes required to get into lots of venues in England. And the Health Secretary Sajid Javid said in a statement to the House this afternoon that once the pass is up and running, to be up to date, you will need your booster when your date is due. And in reply to the statement, the Labour Shadow Secretary of State Wes Streeting, as far as I understood it, stated that the fatality I referred to earlier was caused by the new lurgy flavour. But is that actually true? And if not, that should surely be corrected. But the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, made it quite clear that he was very unhappy that Boris Johnson made a statement last night to the country before sending his Secretary of State to the House today to make this statement. But I don't think the government's listening to that. Now, as an aside, did you know that the Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, while pressing his people to comply, claimed that 2 children had died in Britain due to Zero, Mick and Ron? He corrected it later, but it does show that the so-called misinformation flows not just one way. Wonder who else is doing this and where else it is happening. Now, the Hansard Society also says that the new rules for England will be up for review on the 5th of January and will be set to expire on the 26th of January. Yeah. You only have to look back to see how these dates always get extended. This, I fear, will be no exception, especially where the health passes are concerned. That's the one they want to make permanent. Now, the rules to make a double or triple or even quadruple dose compulsory for NHS staff have not yet been passed. And the Hansard Society there says that to follow the government plan and to get these in by the 1st of April, the rules would need to be agreed by Parliament by the end of January. So we might see those being voted on tomorrow as well. January the 14th could go down in history as the day England officially set off down the slippery slope to medical apartheid and tyranny. Now, one of the main Tory rebels who I've talked about before, Steve Baker, has made it quite clear where he stands on all of this. Asked by Channel 4 News if he opposed the new restrictions, he said, "It's absolutely essential now that we create the kind of society that's worth living in. I'm determined that that does not mean living under minute and frequently changing rules." So as a result, he said he'll vote against further restrictions, voting against health passes and also against mandating medical intervention as a condition of working in the NHS. He was also asked if he was worried about the expert projections on the emergence of this new flavour of the lurgy. He said that this was all based on modelling that has so far proven to be far too pessimistic and wrong, and pointed them to data on the Spectator website for a better picture on that. He also said he was worried that if Parliament votes for these new restrictions, the danger is we'll get drawn further in. And bear in mind, the First Ministers of Scotland and Wales, Nicola Sturgeon and Mark Drakeford, have already suggested they will be moving from their Plan Bs into harsher Plan Cs. And already people are wondering if that will happen in England, even though Boris Johnson has ruled that out 3 times today. But judging by the news coming through of all the hospitality Christmas event cancellations, I don't think the population of England believe the PM. Now, since Zero, Mick and Ron, since they got here, the government machine has kicked off like never before. Despite the mildness of this particular trio, all the emergency stops are being pulled out, together with promises of millions of doses being farmed out. It's almost like they know they've now only got a very short window of opportunity before it naturally peters out to try and prove that it was government intervention that saved the day. It was the dose what done it, they will want to claim, not nature or the herd. That is the way to control. Look, they'll say, if you want to stay safe, listen to us and obey us. Nature cannot help, they will say. And they will also tell us to make sure all the people you know also listen and obey. And if they resist, tell us who they are so we can extract and re-educate them for all our safety. But of course nothing like that could ever happen in the UK, could it? That's just for Austrians and Australians. I mean, it's not like we've got politicians in the Houses of Commons and Lords calling for the non-compliant to be locked away, is it? It's not like there's loads of well-known journalists and celebs demanding that segregation take place, is it? So of course the UK, being a beacon of freedom, would never allow these sorts of draconian, liberty-robbing things to be agreed, would we? But that's exactly what they'll be voting to agree tomorrow. Your MP will be voting to strip you of your freedoms. Well, except for maybe 60 or 70 out of the 650 of them. But there is always the big rally planned for this coming Saturday the 18th of December at midday in Parliament Square that could prove interesting. And there are many like it happening across the planet. But for some reason, our tame domestic mainstream media outlets aren't reporting them. Now, I wonder if these new rules they'll be debating tomorrow will impact on large outdoor gatherings. I sincerely hope not. I do hope that people will still be able to gather and retain the freedom to make their voices heard. So what's your opinion on where the UK is going with regard to freedoms? Please like and comment below. Please subscribe and like this video, buy a mug and support me on Patreon or PayPal, and thank you for watching.